Jacob, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me this time?
I certainly can. I got to turn
Look
it
at
down
that.
a bit. What is well? I want to ask what's new and exciting, but I kind of know since I've watched you a bunch today.
Well, we're all part, you, and then I forgot. I think that was that drone channel. I forgot his name.
Oh, Brad
His
from.
name- Yeah, we're all like the red shirt crew today, man.
Yeah, it wasn't by design. I just picked it out. No memo this time.
Yeah, we'll have to send it out next time, so at least we feel like we're coordinated a little bit.
Well, we can talk about either one because I know you want to talk about both of them. But I'm really interested in what you're talking about, the metal and the pig bone.
Yeah. So my wife, long story short, she's a veteran. She was a gymnast. She broke her back as a gymnast when she was younger, so always kind of had some lower back issues. And then obviously the scar tissue and everything that kind of develops around it. Well, 2 years ago, I think it was 1 year or 2 years ago. Time all just blends in together anymore. But she rode a mechanical bull and fell off. And just the way that she fit, it wasn't a hard fall or nothing. It was just a thing. But it didn't seem like she was that hurt. She was kind of like a little sore or whichever. Well, the next day she was in excruciating pain, and nothing was really working right. Just the entire side of her body was on fire. Nothing she could do to get comfortable. And so what ended up happening is that she herniated that disc in her neck, right? About right. I forgot what L it was. If somebody here can definitely let me know. I'm wanting to say it was like L2 or L4, maybe L2. I can't remember correctly. But anyways, it ended up impinging against her spinal column, and actually pushed into it to where there was no fluid between her bone and the nerves.
Ooh.
And it just pretty much shut her down.
Oh.
And so with us having the VA, we had to wait almost 5 weeks to even get seen to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was going to be a very expensive surgery. So we decided to go the VA route. And since she had some issues in the VA, or in her veteran experience in the past, and she has service-connected disability, it just made sense to us. So
Sure.
She went in and got the x-rays. It was all bad. So they ended up going in, and it's crazy. So they opened her up from the front of the neck, moved her esophagus over, went through her vocal cords to the disc in her neck, and then they removed the disc and they put a cadaver disc in there. And from what I recall, I believe it was pig bone, because it actually has a higher chance of not being rejected than human bone in the human body.
Interesting.
And so that's what they ended up doing. They ended up putting that in her and some meshing and everything else. But what your guest before me stated about the discs on top and below starting to degenerate because of that is absolutely true. That does happen. And that's why it was the only option for her. I mean, it almost paralyzed her. And it was the only option, and she was 27 or 28 when she had the surgery.
Uh-huh.
So they were really reluctant on doing it because she's so young, because that is going to be issues in the next decade. And it's just going to keep going.
Yeah, really. Well, though, what choice do they have? I mean, she
didn't have one.
Yeah. I would think getting it taken care of young would make it, well, almost better, right? Because you've got a better chance of the non-rejection, because it will. Oh, Ed jumped out. I was hurrying so I could get him on, wish him happy birthday, but it looks like he had to go.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's not your fault. Not your fault. But yeah, it seems like being young, it would be even more important to get it in there right away. Because especially given that she literally was almost paralyzed the way she was. Well, what was the option otherwise? Right?
There really wasn't one. Surgery was needed, and then there was also some partial fusion that had to happen as well. So I mean, it's a bad happenstance that happened, and it's just something that we're gonna have to deal with now.
Yeah.
But it definitely does help, because she was unfunctional. I mean, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't do anything. It was probably one of the hardest things I've had to see her go through, because it was torture, and it was over a month. that she was like that, and there was no kind of self-medication because it's nerve damage. So no matter how much alcohol she was drinking, no matter how many pain pills she was popping, CBD, everything, none of that worked during that time.
Right.
It's helped mitigate pain from her back injuries from the service and from gymnastics, but it was rough, and then again, it was the only option. So, but the doctors and the professionals that I've spoken to, I mean, definitely back surgery should be low on your totem pole unless you're requiring it. I totally agree with that 100%.
Yeah. And I was glad to hear that, given what they knew now about my condition, because let's not forget there's a lot of degeneration as well as some arthritis. But now that we know that I've also got bulging discs, I hope it doesn't go down that road. I hope it doesn't get to that point. But the doctor seems to think that I'm at a point right now where the shots may, get me going a little bit longer, keep me going a little bit longer. Yeah.
It should. I mean, I know that when I was playing arena football professionally, a lot of guys that had injuries like that, I mean, those shots are literally what kept them going.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't be down for a season due to surgery. Right. And some of those surgeries are career ending anyways. So, I mean, just like with me, I broke my leg 2 seasons ago and I had to hang up my cleats. I couldn't play anymore. I'm decently recovered now, but my speed will never be the same.
Yeah.
And that's with me being a very small lineman in the professional league. My speed is what got me on the teams.
Sure.
And if I lost that, I'm ineffective.
Yeah.
So it's just how the game's played.
Yeah, and I had that same thing happen with my throttle arm. I don't. This was well before I think you and I, became known to each other. Where I had a motorcycle accident. I was in a qualifier for the 125 Nationals here in Indiana. Right.
Nice.
Because I started.
That's a hell of a sport.
It was great. I loved it. Did it for about 10 years in my teens. And like I said, I was fourth in the state, so I was going to the qualifier. Because they had a series of about, I think, 5 qualifiers. And if you scored high enough, you'd go national. Well, the first qualifier during practice, 250 came up on the right side, pulled me over. It was a Honda, so the chain was on the opposite side, but my arm got sucked in between the spokes and the swing arm.
Man.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see. There's this pretty nasty scar. Yeah. I mean, you got to remember that this was probably in 1980. 81, something like that. And so it's virtually faded, but they had to reattach some ligaments, and my throttle arm was never the same. And I had to give it up.
Responsiveness and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, just that little bit of speed. I mean, and that sport, man, that takes a lot of skill. That's a lifetime of riding. People don't realize just what's really required. The fine motor skills, the balance, estimating your jumps and your launch speed, and negotiating other riders. I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot more to it than people understand.
Oh yeah, there's nothing more crazy than heading to the first turn with about 60 other people just like you on motorized rockets, man. I got to tell you. And you're all trying to squeeze, between 25, 30 foot worth of turn. It gets ugly.
Yeah.
It gets ugly. Crazy. But man, I did love it. I can't even watch a race now without, tensing up and going through the couch body English. It's really strange.
Yeah, I'm the same way with football.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it, and when I retired from bodybuilding and powerlifting, that was kind of my bucket list. So I'm glad I made it. I mean, I started playing. I mean, I had no college experience. I played football 1 year in high school before I dropped out of high school. And so getting a walk-on, first string roster on a professional arena team with no background, and I was 31 when I started playing. I mean, so I was the older guy. The nice thing about being a lineman, though, is that as a power lifter and a bodybuilder, I was able to get that decent foundation strength and know how to leverage, and my recovery was good, and the whole 9 yards. And then a lot of the linemen are typically older guys, anyways. It's a different sport because with like your skill positions with your receivers, your corners, and even some of your mic backs or middle backs, with the way how they're so fine tuned and why there's an abundance of those types of positions, there's not an abundance of linemen. I was a 265 pound lineman, and I was still running my 40, and I think my last 40 time was like 4.7. A lot of guys that big, they they won't train to be able to do that because it's just a lot of work. I mean, it sucks moving that much weight all the time, that fast, over and over and over.
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
and the nice thing about, having a little bit more of mass on you is that we can typically deal with injuries just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
You got a 160 pound receiver, especially in arena football, because the hits in arena ball are huge. Because when that ball is snapped, I can have two receivers, obviously on offense, two receivers are hitting the line of scrimmage and they're already at full speed.
Yeah.
And so that is, you can move the ball so much faster.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and that also can show just how good the cornerbacks are, because they're able to backpedal and stay with these guys while they're going that fast and keep that cushion. And it's really a phenomenal sport. But those guys, one big hit on those guys and they're done. And because they're so fine-tuned with their hand-eye coordination, that even a concussion can be a career ender, because they just don't fully get back to that level. Or, one broken bone, even a smaller bone like a hand or an arm, and sometimes those guys will never come back from that.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Jesse Mendez says it summed it up pretty much perfectly. Everything you do when you're in your youth catches up with you as you age. I dread the day it passes me. No truer words ever spoken, man. I mean, I've often said if I knew I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself.
And I second that. I think that's a military thing, though. I really do, because when I went on my third tour, I'm like, man, if I make it through this, man, I'm just, everything after that, I'm just going to consider being a gift. And so I tell you what, I rode myself hard.
Yeah.
And especially when I came back for about 2 years after. I mean, I went absolutely ballistic on myself. So
it's so easy to do. So easy to do. I mean, you're invincible when you're young anyway. Mm-hmm. Man. And like I said, we just don't have enough foresight. We don't learn from our elders.
No, we already know everything, right?
Exactly.
I mean, when you're in your 20s, I mean, who are you to tell me? I know myself better.
What's that old guy know?
Right, that old guy, right?
Oh man. So let's get back to the jury.
Sure.
The jury subject, if you want to. And Ed, I'll stay a little bit later for you, bud. So hang in there, will you? Look, you had some things you wanted to talk about as it concerned jury duty, and I'm interested to hear it.
I am actually, I'm pretty passionate about this subject, believe it or not. So some of the points was hit a little bit earlier with the guest right before me. But I mean, here's the thing, right? So our country and our judicial system and our government and the whole 9 yards was set up for the people to take the values and to place their country before themselves. I mean, that is what was supposed to make this country great. That's why we have a volunteer military force, unless obviously the draft's implemented, because it's supposed to be people should have a patriotic duty to do something for their country. So if you take a look at the judicial system, the judicial system is not perfect. There's never going to be a perfect system. The fact of the matter is, though, is that when you have people that will do whatever that they can to not go to jury duty and to not contribute as a logical, average, or upstanding citizen, the people that are going to go to jury duty are the people that don't have the insight of working a 9-to-5 job. They don't have the insight of being business owners or people that are really looking at society as a whole. Typically, these people are going to go and try to get compensated however they can because they have all the time in the world to do that. And so jury duty to them is just a supplemental check that they'll get for, the duration of the trial. Mm-hmm. And so you have to look at what can these kinds of people actually offer, and who are these people to judge somebody else when the only thing they know in life is reality TV shows. The only thing they know in life is like this. I mean, we need people that are able to not only use logic, but are able to go on there and apply, their experience, their past experience, and, things that they have learned or situations they've dealt with, again, experience, to look at something objectively without getting emotionally involved, and make a conscious decision and understand the consequences of those decisions. You know, a lot of people, and I hate to say it, but it tends to be the younger generation to where they don't feel that they should contribute to society in that manner. And that's one of the reasons why we're starting to have so many issues, is because they can't put their own bias aside. And that's a big thing, is bias. Like you could walk in there and you could stereotype somebody because of your bias, or if you're a more mature, seasoned person, you can go in there and be the voice of reason. And you have somebody's life in your hands. You really do. You know, so all of that should be put aside. You cannot like how they look, how they dress, how they smell, and none of that matters. The facts matter. And people that are contributors to society, I believe that they can look at things more in an objective or subjective way to make a fair decision, because they understand it just outside of the courtroom as well.
Yeah, that's true. And, it's funny you say that, because I really had a problem with the defendant that we were, adjudicating, if that's the proper term for this, in that he would sleep during the trial. And I found that to be extraordinarily disrespectful. And not
Absolutely.
only that, but it showed a lack of what's the word I'm looking for? Not
empathy.
Not empathy so much, because it was him.
Okay.
He didn't showed it like he didn't have a lot of self-worth or enough respect for every individual in there that was actually trying to figure out whether or not he was guilty of a crime or not. I mean, if you're on trial, I don't care what it's for, the least you can do is show the people who are trying to decide your future a little bit of respect and stay awake.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, like the kid that was on the beginning of the show, right? So when you go into and again, like on those TV shows, I believe somebody commented on the chat, I don't know if it was seen or not, but the people that go on like the Judge Judy's and everything else, they do opt out of jury trial, and you have the option of doing that.
Yep.
That is your right, is you can opt out not being tried by your peers. And key word there is your peers. You know, it's very, very hard to have somebody who has absolutely no way of getting on your level to judge you because just of the environment or their own mental capacity. They're just not able to offer a decent judgment. And that is, and again, you cannot fully agree with the judicial system, but it's one of the best systems in the world. And it's one of the reasons why we still have the innocent until proven guilty out of core law, and then being judged by the people in society about what you did. You know, it's always supposed to be, again, innocent until proven guilty. So when you go into courts, and if you go into court and you don't respect the court, you don't respect the judge, which I see this more often than not, just because of how society is going now. Like if you show up to court in shorts and a tank top, I mean, what do you expect?
I know,
especially if you're not being judged by peers. If you skip that and you just want to be judged by the judge, and then you're walking into his home, something that he has worked his entire life to get. I mean, you don't even understand what that judge had to do to sit on that chair, and then you walk in there and you disrespect the court. You don't stand. You don't appreciate the judicial system at all. It's a joke to you. What do you expect they're going to throw at you?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
honestly.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're human creatures after all, right? And our perception has developed in such a way to help us survive. So we look for things like that. I mean, a lot of people say, that you can't judge a book by its cover, and I would agree with that to a certain extent. But we all judge books by the cover for a reason. And if you're going to come in with a crap book, don't be surprised when no one wants to read it. Is what you're saying in kind of a weird way that I decided to put it. But
no, but I agree. But then that also shows the importance of a jury trial.
Yes.
And why people should, because if you're going to go one-on-one with the judge, and if you're not going to put yourself at that level of professionalism and respect, then you need to be judged again by your peers. And so if you are the part of the demographic that's supposed to come into power, which is Generation Y and Generation Z coming up afterwards, you want the people that you associate with, or the people that are similar in, either trends or the fight the system or whatever type of mentality that's out there now. You want people like you to show up to jury duty. So if you don't show up to jury duty, and again, it's just a joke to you, and if it's a joke and a burdens for everybody else to go on jury duty, then who do you think is going to judge you? Like you're literally breaking down the system that has founded this country and made this. And again, you could not love everything about this country, and again, nobody does. But it's as a society, we have to hold ourselves accountable for changing. If you don't like the judicial system, then go into the legal system. Be a judge, be a lawyer, be an attorney, or just do your civil duty and sit on the panel. If you want to cause a change, start there.
Right.
Instead of expecting somebody else to do it. Because here's the thing, just like in business, you know what? Perfect example is today, right? So we just moved to Colorado. I moved my business operations down to Colorado. We got my real estate asset in Nebraska. I was working this last year. It's on the market. I'm helping build a satellite office for another company of mine that's in contract with me. And so we moved all the mail, right? Well, I did not, and I personally didn't do it. My wife did, who's also my VP and COO. Well, I was under the assumption that she moved the business PO box down to Colorado. I just thought that she was going to do it, and so I didn't think about doing it. It's like, okay, she's got it, whatever. So, well, it never got done, and so now I've got checks coming in that I'm due for payment to some of my freelancers to pay them for their work. And I don't have the check yet. I mean, it's not going to break the bank or nothing, but it's just kind of a pain.
Sure.
So if you go through life and expecting all these other people are going to pick up the slack for you and you don't communicate, nobody's going to do it, and things just don't get done.
That's right.
That's how the real world works.
Yep. And most of those people you were just talking about are in for a rude awakening. When
Man.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. Because things were, and I know all old people say this, but things were so much different when I was being brought up, right? It's like you worked for your allowance, you worked at 15, 16 for your gas money and your insurance. You worked for your car. All of that happened, and nowadays that seems to be going by the wayside, partially due to the government. I mean, I'm not a fan of high minimum wages because of that, because it drives the teen unemployment rate through the roof, especially the black teen unemployment rate, which is awful, because that's where you learn life skills. That's where you learn the things that you were just talking about, Jacob. You literally learn those in your first few jobs. You learn to be on time. You learn to take instruction. You learn to serve and or perform good work. And we're literally stealing that from our kids today. Literally stealing that from our kids, and I think that's one of the saddest things. So what that really means is, going back to your point, and some people in the chat, is like, we're losing our peers. So
we are.
Yeah. So those same people that have the mindset, well, somebody else will do that, are the same people who's going to be in jury, or they're going to leave those other people that probably shouldn't be on the jury left to their devices, and they're going to decide our fate in a court of law, and that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it goes way beyond even the judicial system.
Oh yeah.
Look at the political realm, and not to get political on your show, but look at the disconnect that's going there, and that's as far as I'm going to go on that. And I think everybody kind of gets the gist of that.
Yep.
But the problem is that when you have the entitlement mentality of what we see today, which is very, very apparent. I mean, if you say that it doesn't exist, you're lying to yourself, because it does.
Oh yeah.
And again, like you take the minimum wage example that you use, I am completely against the $15 an hour minimum wage. You look at every control group and every result and case study of these areas that are doing $15 an hour right now. It has gotten even more unsustainable in those areas for the people that were demanding the $15 an hour in the first place.
Sure, they're being replaced. Yeah, they're being replaced. The cost of living is going up. But go ahead. Yep.
No, but I completely agree. San Francisco, California, because I'm a native Californian, that is a perfect example. I mean, you have got 2-bedroom studio apartments in the Bay Area that cost nearly $3,000 a month. You know, just to stay there. Not including if the gas average in California, say $4 a gallon, in San Francisco it's probably $5.50. You know, on top of, you know, there's specialized menus for and these are chains, these are Denny's and stuff like that have inflated their costs just in that geographical location to keep things profitable and moving forward. Mm-hmm. So every single thing that you do does not relate to the more money you're making at $15 an hour. And not just that, but it takes away the initiative and the incentive to have people do better in life.
That's
to
right.
Get a real career, to get educated, you know, to start moving on. And then, you know how awesome it was when I got my very first promotion as a dishwasher? I was a dishwasher at Denny's, or excuse me, Applebee's. And I got my first promotion to be the dishwasher and the GU. So I was prepping food to go out, right? And so that was like an extra, you know, 30-something cents an hour, but I was promoted.
Yep.
And I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yep.
You know, and you get that accomplishment, and that is what drives you forward. You can't go into an entry-level position and then have the mentality of, well, if I don't make this amount of money, then I'm just going to stay on unemployment or get on welfare because I'm actually paid more not to work than what you're paying me. So give me $15 an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the pride in that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the, everyone deserves a trophy mentality.
Absolutely.
And it takes so much away from personal competition with yourself, right? Because the reason you do that, the reason you go to get, incidentally, I was actually a dishwasher at a place called Shallows here in town.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I was promoted to fry. And I loved it. Yeah.
One of my other guys who was a dishwasher went to fry as a line cook.
Yeah.
I know that culture. And dude, that's work.
But it's a matter of pride. Just making that move because apparently, you know, I was getting the dishes clean and quick enough, and they saw something in me that decided to move me up. And if we stop doing that, that's going to have major repercussions down the road.
Yeah, and it already has.
Yeah. You
know, it's gotten to the point, and one of the best things I ever did was leave California. And if there's anybody native California, that's not a dig on you. It's just the environment and the politics just didn't represent me anymore. And when it got to the point where flying the American flag was considered racist, I couldn't be a part of that anymore.
Yeah, I hear you.
I buried brothers in that flag.
Yeah.
You know, and so this entire culture that has been developed just due to, just going to back to the original topic, just going to jury duty to experience it.
Yes.
To understand. That's a critical learning skill of sitting there and hearing all the facts on something, and then sitting down with your peers, having critical thinking,
yep,
and understanding that the decision that you make has consequences for life,
yep,
both ways.
Yeah.
You know, and some people have never experienced something like that in their lives. It's a huge part of growing and understanding that you are a valuable member to society, not because you think you are, but because of these things like this are showing you that, hey, the country relies on you to put other things in front of you for the greater good of the people.
That's right. Right. Society requires that you do that as well.
Yeah.
Well, Jacob, let's leave it there because it's 12 after, and I want to get Ed up and wish him a happy birthday and all, and
awesome.
Get out of here within a reasonable amount of time. But dude, thanks for being on. It's always a great conversation. We could go on for hours about these things. I just know it. But you know, you're always welcome back on. All right.
Oh no, I greatly appreciate it. I'll be here until you close down because I learn things from you all the time, man. Like you're the generation that wrote the book that I studied to do what I do, and my job is to do the same for the generation under me. The problem is none of them read anymore.
Well, as long as we can make more of you, Jacob, that's all I care about.
That's why I'm on YouTube, man. Hopefully we can make a difference on YouTube. You know,
that's one of the reasons I'm here too, man. All right, buddy.
All right, man. Good night, brother.
Good night to you.